Hungry dogs run fast.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into my dog's favorite podcast, the Dynasty Dogs, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Universe. I am your host for this evening, Michael Anthony. Alongside me is not Rich. I would say a much smarter Dynasty individual than Rich. No, I'm just kidding. My good friend, Dustin Maul. You can find him at Empire Elite FF. How you doing, Dustin?
Doing good, Mike. Doing good. How you doing, man?
Hanging in there. I took a little bit of a break after the draft because you obviously, doing a live stream for 4 hours is a lot, and all the draft content that was coming out, and just trying to soak everything in. But I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Man, same, man. It's always good to take that break, kind of step back and get away from it for a little bit because it's easy to get burned out. So it's always smart to take a step back and just be like, all right, I've been talking about rookies since January. Now we're in May, still talking about rookies. Like
we're going to be talking about them all season and training camp.
I'm ready to look at 2026. Like, thankfully, the nice thing about devy is we're always thinking ahead. But if I never have to look at another prospects tape for 2025, I will be a happy man.
I was actually just about to say, I know your bread and butter is devy. So I know you've been probably watching a lot of these guys for a couple of years now, and now you're already looking ahead. So this is just like, can we please get off this year and into the next? I'm sure that's been on your mind a lot lately. And I think, are you in that devy draft that I'm in with? I think Chev's in there. Ben, are you in that league?
I'm not in that one. I wish I had, but I kind of like what you were saying earlier. Like I maxed out on leagues. I can't do anymore, and now I've got that itch, and I'm kind of wishing I had done it, but alas, I'm in enough damn leagues anyways. Let's be real.
I in my first pick, I had the 1-4. I took Cam Coleman, and then at the 2-4, I took Evan Stewart. I am still a big Evan Stewart.
Still into Evan Stewart,
man.
Huh?
Yeah.
Man, struggled after that injury. I think he's still going to produce. I think he's still going to get drafted. So I think that's a good bet at 2-4. I can't fault you for it. But Cam Coleman, that's my guy. I love him out there at Auburn. That 2027 class, man. I know everybody's hyping it up. We'll see if it lives up to expectations by the time we get there. I can't see a world where it doesn't, but it's pretty exciting stuff, man.
I will say, I do think he's got a QB upgrade in Auburn now with Jackson Arnold compared to Peyton Thorne. I don't know if you would agree with that, but yeah.
Yeah, there's some Jackson Arnold haters out there, but I mean, there's no denying the talent. He was 5-star for a reason. Mm-hmm. Absolutely is a step above Thorne. And even if that doesn't pan out, I do like Deuce Knight, the freshman that they got there too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So watch out for him. I'm a big fan of Deuce Knight as well.
Real quick, I just want to say for Evan Stewart, I know you were just saying that, kind of a fall off from the injury. I will say, turn on that freshman tape against Bama, going up one-on-one against Tyron Arnold, who was a first-round pick in that draft class. That motherfucker had that dude on skates the entire game.
Yeah.
That dude is dirty. We just need to get him back.
Yeah.
Get him back to full go. And it's going to be interesting what that Oregon offense looks like. But enough devy chitter chatter. We have to talk about. I'm sorry. So tonight we're going to talk about breakdown of the NFL draft, what we kind of saw about a week and a half ago from now. Talk a little bit about how NFL teams look after that, then bring it into a little bit of a dynasty conversation in regards to the NFL draft. Then we're going to play a game of this or that, or this player versus that player when it comes to rookies versus rookies. That's going to be the interesting conversation. And then we're going to do rookies versus vets as well, because like Dustin said, we are a little bit tired about talking about these rookies versus rookies. It's time to put them up against NFL talent, because guess what? They're now in the NFL, right? So that's right. All that matters. And not only is it rookie draft season, we're getting into going right back into it. We're going into startup draft season too. So we got to, compare these guys accordingly, just so everybody could be ready for that startup that I'm sure is coming soon. Because by the way, the FFU is going to be having a startup. We're going to be sharing probably within the next week or so. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to be in there. Rich is going to be in there. Jeremy, Jesse, SC. See if you're better than us. You probably are. You probably are, but we'll see. All right, so let's get into the NFL draft conversation. I'll start with this question first for you, Dustin. Who do you think, what team do you think had the best overall draft in your opinion?
Whew, man, there's so many. I could run through a few of them, honestly, Mike. And, the one that sticks out the most is one that's in the division. And I kind of ran with this question a little bit. I didn't just touch on the draft. I thought overall as a whole, I took into account the offseason, the free agency, as well as the draft. And I'm looking right there at the Las Vegas, I almost said Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders. Man, it's been years at this point. Anyways, the Las Vegas Raiders, this offseason was all about them getting a complete culture reset. Now, they're following the actual model that was set by the Chargers and the Broncos. You bring in a veteran coach that's supposed to come in there and establish this new culture. Now, last season, the Raiders, they would get down in games, Mike, and they would look like they just gave up. That, to me, that typically shows that there's a lack of a winning culture there. Now, early in the actual 2024 season, early on in the game, Minshew hit this nice pass to Brock Bowers. He goes up and gets it. He gets a shit ton of yards after the catch. And then they're driving and they're about to score a touchdown. It looks like they're going to go up on a 2-score lead over Denver when suddenly Minshew throws a pick six to Pat Surtain. You've probably seen it. It goes like 100 yards the other way. They never look back. But what I did notice from that was watching the players. Like after that play, they just had their heads down, like they were completely out of it.
Yeah,
Pete Carroll's gonna come in there and he's gonna change that type of culture, and he's gonna instill one of competition. He's done that everywhere he's been. As a USC fan, I saw it there, and he did the same thing in Seattle. Whenever I say Pete Carroll, I imagine that bubble gum chewing, running up the steps. Like that's Pete Carroll. That's what he's about, even in his old age. He brought in his guy in Geno Smith to operate this team. And Geno's just going to be an extension of that culture. And his first pick as a coach. Now, I don't know if he's necessarily the one making the decisions. They have Spytek, the GM, and Tom Brady there as well. But the first pick that they made with him as the head coach was Ashton Genty, best running back in college football. The Raiders are bringing that smash mouth type of football. Honestly, it's the new style that's being played out in the AFC West. We got Pete Carroll, and now his history going against Jim Harbaugh. They go back to USC versus Stanford days. I'm excited to see that Pete Carroll versus Jim Harbaugh rivalry.
Yeah, that AFC West is just going to be a lot of running the football. You got you mentioned Genty. You mentioned I don't think you mentioned Omarion Hampton went to the Chargers. You got RJ Harvey and Estime in Denver. You've got Pacheco, Brashard Smith. Let's not forget him in Kansas City. I like what you said though with the Vegas Raiders, just in the entirety of the offseason, bringing in Geno Smith. We saw what Geno Smith has looked like in a Pete Carroll offense. And that was what was that? Almost 4,000 yards, or he hit 4,000 yards with Pete Carroll as the head coach. Not only that, you brought in Chip Kelly as an offensive coordinator. We've seen what he's done in his tenure in college football, in the NFL, as mostly just an offensive, play caller, just a I don't want to say brilliant because I hate the guy as an Eagles fan, but let's be honest. The dude could call plays for offense. He's just not a quality head football coach by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, for sure. Jacoby Myers is another guy that, I know he wasn't brought in, but I think is going to benefit from a Geno Smith-led offense. They still have Michael Mayer, which confuses the shit out of me, to be honest with you. I don't know what the plan is for him, but I do agree. I really like what you said about just the entirety of the offseason with them, bringing in a winning head football coach who's won a Super Bowl, it seems like the most positive dude in the universe, just always helping his players out, being in the defensive drills, getting in a wide receiver's face or corner's face, throwing passes, which is the craziest thing I've seen. I don't know if you remember that video from a couple years ago where you're rolling out left.
Gloved up.
I don't even know what that was, but it just brings in a different culture. And I think that's even you mentioned the culture change, bringing in Tom Brady is awesome for them, right? Like, because that's a guy who knows how to win. Like, does he know how to operate football organization, like the inside the stuff? We don't know, but we know you would think he would know how to evaluate talent. Let's be honest. Let's see how that goes. But my winner, and there's honestly, the next question is who had the worst draft, but I don't really think there was a lot of really good drafts in this
year. I had multiple winners, honestly, if we had time. Like I picked out at least 3.
My winner, though, is the Atlanta Falcons. I really like what they did, especially with the edge rushers that they brought in, Jalen Walker and James Pierce. I know they gave up a first next year to get back into that the end of that first round to get James Pierce, which might seem like a lot because you're gambling, like you're hoping that your pick is either at that point or worse, obviously, because if you end up with like a top 10 pick, you really just fucked up, kind of, right? But I don't think Atlanta's not that bad, right? Like they just brought in a stud edge rusher, Jalen Walker, James Pierce. Michael Penix showed to be a capable quarterback. They have a stud wide receiver in Drake London. They have Bijan Robinson. They really just needed a defense, and 2 dudes that could set the tone on the edge that they brought in are just fantastic. Xavier Watts, the safety from Notre Dame, another dude who knows how to set the tone. I like him a lot. But honestly, my favorite pick for them was, and he wasn't even picked, he was an undrafted free agent, is Kobe Bryant from Kansas.
Okay.
You want to talk about a dude that is just an absolute like maniac, an absolute possible crash out, an absolute possible like dude that's going to get up in your chest. Kobe Bryant was an absolute steal as an undrafted free agent. Does he end up being a cornerback 1 or 2? Probably not. But could he be like a cornerback 3 for that team that's starting to grow on defense? Absolutely. I love that pick or that signing by them. So I think the Atlanta Falcons really had a nice draft. And like you mentioned, there's other ones. The Giants, Abdul Carter, and then moving back into the first round to get Jackson Dart is another fantastic move. They're kind of, Brian Dable's coaching for his job. Their GM is GMing for his job. So they made the right decisions, in my opinion, for what they did. Do you have an honorable mention as well? I know you said you had a couple, but you want to give another one real quick?
Yeah. I hate to give any credit to the Chiefs, but they're a perfect example of how good teams stay good. Just take the good talent, pick the good players, right? Take the guys who fall to you. Josh Simmons falling to the last pick of the draft and getting him was a steal. Jalen Royals was a steal. Brashard Smith in the 7th round was a damn steal. So I got to give them their due. But another one that really stuck out to me were the Patriots. Now, the Patriots addressed all major needs that they had over this offseason, and they continued to build around their franchise quarterback, Drake May. Now, they brought in Diggs. I always like when you have a young quarterback and you bring in that veteran wide receiver who's going to be able to see the field and relay it to the guy and kind of give him that back and forth. Like, hey, man, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm expecting. This is how I need you to throw it against this coverage. And there honestly is a longstanding history of those young quarterbacks being able to take that next step once they do bring in that wide receiver. A perfect example of this, honestly, was when Diggs went to Buffalo and Josh Allen had him. Josh Allen took that next step. And I just love it because Drake May is often compared to Josh Allen. It's
revisionist history at this point. Yeah, almost.
Yeah, exactly.
I also like the pick of Kyle Williams too. You didn't even mention that. Like that's a dude we all kind of liked, right? Yeah. They really did have.
Oh, absolutely. He can step in and be the number 2 right away. I've heard somebody compare Kyle Williams to Stephon Diggs. I haven't watched enough Kyle Williams tape to confidently say that. Somebody I trust did say that. I really need to go back because he was such a late riser. I just kind of trusted people's evaluations of him. But then they also got my guy, Travion Henderson. The most complete back in this class. We've talked ad nauseum about his ability to block. That's going to be his ticket to be in the 3 down all around back there for Drake May. And you want to talk about a weapon coming out of the backfield? That's Travion Henderson. And I don't think he did it enough at Ohio State. He ran weaponized routes out of the backfield when they decided to. But you got all those 5-star wide receivers out there. You're going to throw them the ball. I'm just excited, man. This is again like Vrabel coming in and reestablishing that Patriot way, the culture of how they want to do things. Josh McDaniels, as the offensive coordinator, he's got a great history of using those backs out of the backfield in the passing game. And I think this might actually be Josh McDaniels' like most all-around back that he's had since Noshawn Moreno when he drafted him to the Denver Broncos in 2009. Yeah,
that's a good one. I like that call.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. I think that was one of my clear winners, even from a football perspective, but really from a fantasy football perspective. That really got me hyped up. Like, okay, I see the vision now of what they're doing. They don't have that offensive-minded head coach, but they got Josh McDaniels, who he's burned all the bridges in the NFL. He's not going anywhere. You know he's safe, and he's going to be dialing up those plays for Drake May. So big-time winners for me, Patriots.
Yeah, you got so excited. You punched your microphone there.
You saw that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're good. I just thought it was so excited. You fucking socked it. No, I agree. And it's going to be cool to see, like, Travion Henderson doesn't even have to come off the field, like, ever, to be honest with you.
Right.
Best pass blocker that we've talked about. Probably, you mentioned the pass catching and the route running. The dude ran a fucking sluggo route. One of the nicest sluggo routes you will see a running back run ever. Yeah. And it was perfect. And I loved it. And that I have wet dreams about that pretty much to this day. But
and if the ball wasn't underthrown, it would have been an easy touchdown.
Also that. They also took Will Campbell. Like, say what you want. The dude was the best tackle on the board at that pick. Like, obviously, the short arms conversation. Yeah, the short arms conversation is always going to be there. Is he going to end up moving a guard? We don't know. But they took the best player available at a position of need. You can't argue against it, to be honest with you. So that was a great pick. Now, I'll start off with this one. Who had the worst draft? I honestly didn't think, like, just looking at some of the draft picks, I was looking at it again today. Like, I don't think a team really had a horrible draft. I will say, and I won't even call it the worst, I was just confused. Cleveland, right?
Yep.
The Cleveland Browns, the draft pick of Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round, the draft pick of Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, which that we could have a whole discussion about that for like an entire episode. But then the Quinshon Judkins draft pick in the 2nd round, and then to take Dylan Sampson in the 4th, and then they drafted our guy, our tight end too, coming in his draft, Harold Fannin Jr., which that's a sneaky one. Let's not forget that, because Njoku's on a contract year and he has some injury histories. Njoku was a buy for me coming into this offseason. He still is kind of a buy for me because he's an athletic freak. And when Deshaun Watson's not playing, Njoku is that dude. But they just created a logjam of players, especially. And then I'm going to take this from a dynasty aspect. They created a logjam for a lot of these dynasty relevant players, especially 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. I was just confused overall by this draft for them. What do you think?
Well, first of all, we're in lockstep because this was also my choice. For the
cool. Nice. I'm not alone.
Hey, you know what? It's like you said, though, you could look around and I didn't see a lot that I hated. Even with the Browns draft class, like you mentioned, didn't mind the Judkins pick, but it is just a little confusing, like where they took him in the draft, taking Sampson two rounds later, because Sampson is no slouch. Mm-hmm. And then it just automatically gets those questions circulating in your head, like, what is the rotation going to look like? Is he going to steal touches from Judkins? I don't really see that. I think this is mostly taking Jerome Ford's job, but it's just a confusing draft. Like, why? Who saw Dylan Gabriel as an NFL prospect?
Who saw him as a 3rd round pick over Shedeur is still driving me insane.
It's driving me crazy. And I've said it a couple of times now, and I'll say it here on air. Dylan Gabriel puts the word mid in midget. Like, he's just a small man out there. And look, shout out to his small kings. Like, I'm not the biggest guy, but I'm also not. I'm trying to play quarterback and throw over these gigantic offensive linemen. I don't see it. You're still in the books for Deshaun Watson. You brought in Joe Flacco. Cool. So now we're ready to roll.
Kenny Pickett.
And then you Kenny Pickett. Didn't even mention him. And then you double dipped at the quarterback position from an NFL draft prospect or process. I know taking 2 quarterbacks late is seen as a good thing, but from a fantasy perspective, it's really confusing and it doesn't make sense. And then you got to talk about them being at 1-2, right? The trade down, I think you could say that's good process. You picked up some additional picks, a 1st round next year, an additional 2nd rounder, and you still got Mason Graham. Like, on paper, that looks good. But in typical Browns fashion, for whatever reason, I just totally expect this to blow up in their face. Like Travis Hunter just becomes the best player of this generation, and Browns fans are just pissed looking back at it like, damn, we had a chance to get him. So, man, poor Browns. Even when they do something good, I'm still like, I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it that was a good move.
On paper, you're right, though. It is a good move. It's just my fear is not even just the fact that maybe Travis Hunter blows up and becomes like the next big thing, but like, what if the Jags are better than we think they are this year? Like, I think they're still going to be like about 500 or below, and I think that's calling it safe. I don't think their defense still needs a lot of work, right? Yeah. So if that pick ends up being in the 20s, do you still feel comfortable moving out from the Travis Hunter sweepstakes? So you ended up with what? Mason Graham essentially, and then a 20s pick, or let's say teens. We'll make it a little bit safer. We'll call it like 15. Would you call that a success for them?
I would.
Yeah,
I would.
I think I would too.
NFL, there's going to be great talent that falls to 15. I think, it's good process. More than likely, they did a good thing. It's just Andrew Berry, the GM for the Browns, hasn't really proven that he's been the best at making the right selection. So, I mean, again, it's like, I feel really bad for Kevin Stefanski. He's in my opinion one of those ones. He's a good offensive minded guy. Didn't he win coach of the
he did,
coach of the year?
Mm-hmm.
A couple times, right?
I think at least
or was
once.
It just the one?
I think it was like 2 years ago.
At least once. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a great mind, and unfortunately I could just see where he's on a trajectory to get fired because he's got to deal with the talent that Andrew Berry supplies him. So I'm just skeptical. Some of the choices that they made me raise my eyebrows and kind of question the moves.
Does the Quinshot Judkins draft pick and Dylan Sampson make you nervous drafting Judkins in the first round of your rookie drafts? No. Okay.
No,
it doesn't really for me either. But I know it has raised some red flags to people that I've seen on Twitter or some other podcasts because I get it. Dylan Sampson did it in the SEC. He looked really good doing it. Obviously, in a wide open Tennessee offense that a lot of running backs have looked good in, aka Jalen Wright, who I don't think is very good. But I do think he's going to be a thorn in his side. I just don't know if it's like worth passing Judkins at like the 1-7 where I've kind of seen him fall most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, Sampson is a legit prospect. He's very talented. I'm not taking anything away from him. I think he's going to be a tremendous pass catcher out of the backfield. I think Judkins needs that other combo. I think any back can do well from that. You know what I mean? And Quinshon Judkins, he was productive in the SEC too.
For sure.
Yeah, I want people to remember his time at Ole Miss and what he did, breaking Herschel Walker's freshman record in the SEC. Like that's something he'll always be able to hang his hat on. What he did against a very good Notre Dame defense in the national championship doesn't get talked about enough, honestly, in my opinion. That performance that he put on, he really displayed everything that he does well. So I believe in the talent, more so Quinshon Judkins. I think he's the clear number one there. I guess he's going to get the lion's share of the carries. He's a volume-based back. And he's a capable pass catcher. It's what do we get from the quarterback position? That's always going to be the biggest question. I think Joe Flacco, obviously, he's going to be good enough to win you some games. It's going to be what do we do going forward? Because Joe Flacco, I can't see him playing past this season.
I was going to say, do you think he's the starter this year?
I do. And I think that
season.
Yeah, you have to, right? Like who else do you feel confident enough to win you games?
Sure, for sure. I would even go back, by the way, with the Judkins conversation at Ole Miss. His freshman year, let's not forget, he looked just as good or better than other 5-star running back, Zach Evans, at their time at Ole Miss together. So, which is crazy to think about the fall off of Zach Evans as well. Yeah. Did you like Zach Evans real quick before we go to the next one?
I mean, who didn't?
Yeah.
He was heralded as the next big thing, big 5-star, good SEC program. Looked good.
Same. He was I think at one point he was rated higher than Bijan, if I'm not mistaken, from a stars aspect. And then it switched, I believe.
I think it was depending on what service you were looking at. And then you get all the numbers through. But yeah, I believe he was highly
touted,
recruited and ranked. Yes, very much so. So I mean that's a great point. That's context that probably gets missed over time. Is exactly like he wasn't just expected to step in and be the big man on campus as a freshman, and what he did. It can't go unstated just how incredible that really was. And to have the sustained success, like people talk about, like he got worse and worse every year. He still put up over 1,000 yards in the SEC again the next year. And then in the Big Ten, whilst sharing carries with another elite running back prospect in Travion Henderson. So don't get me started on Judkins, Mike. Come on. You know, I'll talk about him all night.
Listen, I just wanted to put it out there because people think, like my buddy TJ from Dynasty DNA thinks I'm a Judkins hater, but I'm not. I just don't put him in the same range as Omarion Hampton, and that has gotten us into millions of debates this offseason. But let's get into the next question here. I'll let you start this one off. What player – so this is on a Dynasty aspect. We're going to look at this from a Dynasty lens.
Okay.
What player went higher in the NFL draft that you do not have interest in?
This is an easy one for me. He was the first pick in the 4th round. Chimere Dike.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, so he was selected over guys that I have ranked higher in Jalen Royals and Alec Ayomanor, who of course the Titans eventually, I think they made up for that selection by getting Ayomanor later. Now, this isn't someone that I really watched on film. He wasn't on my radar at all. There was no buzz about him pre-draft. Was there? Did you hear anybody talking about DK?
Not even a slightest.
Yeah. So there's always, in the scouting community, there's always the debate on what you look for. Are you looking for traits or are you looking for production? And I think from what I've heard from what the Titans have said about him, they love his leadership traits. They love his ability to play different positions of wide receiver, different. They can line him up all over the field, they said. But noticeably, they said his contribution specifically on special teams. Now, yeah,
you need more than that right now for your
yes, like that's a luxury pick. Now, I try not to shit on these too much because sometimes they do look at these traits and they're confident in their coaching to be able to coach them up and get them up there. Like Demaryius Thomas was one of those guys for us. He was a guy that was, different level of athlete, but to speak to that point of them drafting for the traits, he was somebody that they saw as a big guy with speed. And, he didn't have the most refined routes coming out of Georgia Tech. He ran like 2 routes, literally. So I can see that. I try not to shit on that. I just don't see it with DK. And to be taken where he was over those guys, I can't get behind it. I would take Xavier Restrepo, the undrafted wide receiver, over him.
Finally, some Restrepo love from you.
Yeah, I would take him as an undrafted wide receiver over the 4th round, and that just seems like a pick that you just rolled up and burned. Right, you just wasted that pick.
I didn't understand what they were doing at the wide receiver position in the draft. The Tennessee Titans. You mentioned DK. I'm not the biggest Alec Ayomanor fan. One of my hot takes that we never really got into a hot take episode was that Ayomanor was going to go in the 4th round or later, and that one actually ended up being right. He went in the 4th round. But to be honest, he went into probably the best possible situation, with a wide open room, the number 1 overall quarterback in this draft. He has the opportunity to succeed. The biggest dude I'm interested in is Xavier Restrepo. Like, you're getting him for cheap, whether he's he's a 4th round pick or an undrafted guy in your rookie drafts. He's got the connection with Cam Ward. That's the dude I'm taking in that offense, other than Gunnar Helm, who I also do really like. I really like Gunnar Helm. He's just a safety blanket type guy. My dude that went higher than I expected that I have no interest in, it's going to be Savion Williams going in the 3rd round to the Green Bay Packers. I don't understand this one at all.
No.
He's a large human being. I think he's like 6'4", 6'3", if I'm not mistaken. Pretty much a Cordell Patterson clone. But you have Cordell Patterson-esque player already at home in Jaden Reed, who's much better at everything than Savion Williams, right? Cordell Patterson, I'm not shitting on him, to be honest with you. And I'm not shitting on Jaden Reed because I think Jaden Reed might still be the best Packers wide receiver on that team. And I don't know.
Ooh, hot take.
We'll get to that later. Listen, my problem is I don't think Green Bay knows how to use those type of players. So bringing in a Savion Williams to me doesn't make any fucking sense because you're not using Jaden Reed in that way. That you're giving him what, like 15% of the fucking snaps, and he's just not like non-existent. Like, what are we doing here? I didn't understand that pick. He's what? Have you seen him go in the third round? Because that's where I've kind of seen him go in rookie drafts, third, fourth round. I have no interest in taking him there. Rather take shots on the tight end position at that realm, like Rondé Gadskin, Gunnar Helm. Jalen Royals kind of goes in that mid-late third range. Obviously, we're taking him over him. I just don't see it with Savion Williams. He's a gadgety guy. He's not a refined route runner. Take him in the third kind of seems like a reach to me. And he went into the worst possible situation of just, we talked about log jams. Logjam on logjam in Green Bay. I have no interest in drafting him at all.
Yeah, it's these special teams guys, right? We're just taking them. Yeah, for sure. You got to get creative on special teams now, Mike. We got these new rules. I don't know if you heard about these rules.
There are fantasy leagues that have special teams points, man. So don't sleep on that.
Yeah, I'm in one of those leagues. We have a 16-team super flex that counts some special teams points. You got to get those fantasy points anywhere you can in those leagues.
That's what makes Marvin Mims a stud. Well, at least for the first 2 years. But I think Marvin Mims is better than what they've given him so far. At least what we saw in the mid half of the season. Speaking of your Denver Broncos, I think Marvin Mims could be a sneaky guy this year. I've always really liked Marvin Mims. He was my wide receiver 4 of that draft class. And I always wanted to put him over Quentin Johnston, but I listened to the draft capital on that one. You know what I mean? So that was like kind of a miss on my part, but kind of not, because I still think Marvin Mims is better than Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, that pick got Telesco fired.
For sure.
There.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm all for the draft cap on these guys and following it. It is one of the still like the most predictive thing that we have. But I mean, sometimes we have dumb GMs, right? Like sometimes you got to trust your assessment too, and just like, okay, these teams mess up too. Trust your gut.
For sure.
Go ahead, take Marvin Mims over him.
For sure. Yeah, I should. Well, actually, I had no shares of Quentin Johnston. I had pretty much every league that I was in. I had Marvin Mims, so I was okay with that. So I'll start this one off. What player that got drafted later than you expected do you have interest in your dynasty drafts? That is, for me, going to be, surprise, surprise, Jalen Royals drafted to the Kansas City Chiefs at round 4. Yes, this is a bit of a logjam, right? You have Rashee Rice, you have Xavier Worthy, you have Hollywood Brown, Travis Kelce, is still going to be, relevant in this offense because he is the guy. He is Patrick Mahomes' dude. But to me, Hollywood Brown's, I think he's got 1 year left. I don't think they bring him back. I think he's pretty much done. Jalen Royals, to me, if Rashee Rice isn't ready to go, but based on some of the videos I've seen recently, he looks like he might be ready. Jalen Royals could take that job away from him, because if there's anyone that fits that Rashee Rice type role that Kansas City laid out for him, his end of rookie season, sophomore season, Jalen Royals fits that to an absolute fucking T. Getting open in the intermediate to short and then just creating after the catch. I think Jalen Royals is a bit better vertically than Rashee Rice was coming out of college, in my opinion. Just in my opinion. I thought Rashee Rice had a problem with physicality in college coming out of SMU. I do think he was a good ball tracker. I do think he had the size to win. I just don't think he knew how to use his body technically. And I think that's what Kansas City realized. And we're going to change this play up, this game plan we have up for him. So I think Jalen Royals is a very sneaky dude you're getting in the mid to late third of your rookie drafts. A guy that you and I think you were on the last time you were on, we talked Jalen Royals, and I, preached him up all day long to be in a second round pick and this and that. I still think he's better than, you mentioned DK. I think he's better than Tesla, who I think went in the third round, if I'm not mistaken, to Detroit. Savion Williams, who I just fucking talked about. I think he's a much better wide receiver than he is. So, Steve Smith even has this dude in his top 5, right? And I trust Steve Smith. Tom Pelissero loved him. So I don't think we're alone that, people thought Jalen was going to go higher than he did. But I think he's going to prove that he might be the second best, maybe 2B in that offense as a pass catcher from the wide receiver position, not counting Travis Kelce.
Oh, absolutely. Like you talked about it being a logjam, but then you laid out all the reasons for why it's really has the potential to not be here very soon, right? Hollywood Brown not being there, that's going to open up. I would love that role for him. I mean, we didn't really get to see Hollywood in this offense, but you talk about a guy that can stretch the field too and do a number of things too. He could dominate over the middle of the field as well too. Like you mentioned, if Rashee Rice isn't as healthy, if he can't play like to that level that he was at before, and you need to take it slow with him while he continues on his recovery, then you got a guy that's right there. Also, Travis Kelce isn't going to be there for much longer. That's another guy that's great over the middle. Like you have a guy that could do it all. I'm not really sure why he fell. This does happen in the NFL draft sometimes. Maybe it's the level of competition that he faced there in college. I don't know. That does get held against these guys.
I think it's the injury.
I was just gonna say, or the injury. And what a steal again for the fuck the Chiefs, man. I hate them. Just take the good players, man. And I just kept watching that draft and go, damn, they got another great value. Damn, they got another great value. It's how good teams stay good. So Royals was your guy before draft. I loved him too. The first show that we did together, right? We talked about Jalen Royals. Man, nothing but good things to say about him. That's a really good one, man. And he should not have been a 4th round pick.
I still think it. I really do think it was the injury, because if you listen to Jalen when he was talked about it through the pre-draft process, like at the Senior Bowl, he's like, I'm not 100% yet, but he's still cooking, which is crazy for me to think about. Like I was there the whole weekend. This dude won one-on-one reps all weekend. I would say the last day he started to slow down a little bit, but if he's still banged up, I'll give him a pass on that for
you have to.
Week. And then, at the combine, if I'm not mistaken, I do remember him saying he wasn't 100%, fully healthy yet, but then still ran like a 4.3, right? So
incredible.
This dude is still doing this at not 100%. So it's possible that's the reason he fell. But if this dude hits 100% and the Chiefs fucking got another dude, he might be in fucking trouble, right? I think this is the steal of the draft.
And the Chiefs are gonna look. We talked about the AFC West wanting to be smash mouth football. A lot of that played into because of how the Chiefs are, right? Let's keep them off the field, this and that. They showed last year before all the injuries, they want to get back to that spread and just attack you vertically. Get back to Patrick Mahomes, just launch shit down the field. That throw that he had in the Super Bowl to Xavier Worthy was incredible. Like I know that like your Eagles were putting
blocked it out. It was over.
You were probably already blacked out, right? Yeah. Like you were getting ready to go celebrate another championship, but he made that throw and I paid attention. I go, oh boy. Like if we get this Pat Mahomes again, watch out. And I hate to say it, but I love what they're doing in Kansas City. Like that's why we drafted Barrett in the 1st round, man, because we got to play Kansas City. So that
was a sneaky good draft pick, man. You got you got Patrick Surtain, who just locked down no matter what, right? Everybody's in a straight jacket. He's just all over them. Then you got Jaron Barron. Is that how you say it? I don't know.
Jade.
Okay, Jade. Barron. Absolute ball hawk, right? Can cover man well, but like this dude just is around the ball at all times. Sorry, we're going off on a tangent about Barron, but I really liked him. Because I did a draft episode talking about corners, and he was one of my favorite guys for the corner position. But Jalen Royals, man, you mentioned Kansas City missing like an element of like a big playability. I think Jalen Royals is that guy when given the opportunity. And if he watch these fucking training camp videos as preseason, if these dudes still go, we might see a lot of those videos from me. I might be the one spreading the pro pop propaganda here again. Let's get into your guy. Who is it? Who was drafted later that you're all in on?
This is another easy one for me, Mike Mine was 7th round pick, or was he 6th? Doesn't matter. It's Devin Neal. He was taken later than he should have ever gone.
Okay, I love that.
He's one of my guys. Loved his tape, and the tape never lies. He's talented. He's a smooth runner that knows how to set up his blocks better than any other back in this class. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with Devin Neal watching him have a corner right in front of him, and you're watching from the defense's angle. You're seeing his eyes, and he's already looking down the field. He's got a blocker coming this way with the safety bearing down, so he just would kind of slide this way, right, real smooth like, and set up that block and cut again upfield. It was something beautiful to see. Now, he did have the slow 40, and I don't know if that contributed to his fall, but speed was never part of his game. He wins with the excellent vision. He wins with that elite lateral ability, and he, why are you going to let a slow 40 affect your evaluation of them? Draft. Look, hey, I came around to it. Now I shit on him mostly because you were such a Restrepo lover that I was like, no, off my board, get him off. I love that landing spot. Like, yeah, for sure. I could talk about that too. I love the chemistry. Now Shev's not really into it. He hates the pick.
It wasn't even a pick. You got him for free.
Right. But anyways, talking about no, it's okay. It's okay. We're just talking ball, man. It's fun. It's fun. Pre-draft, you and I both said this, that we can't hold lower than expected draft capital against these running backs. Simply due that we knew there was going to be talent at these late rounds. We knew that late day three, there was going to be some running backs taken that were talented, and they're probably going to outperform their draft capital. I would be shocked if Devin Neal was not that man that we talk about a year from now as one of the biggest risers from the running back position in this class. Now he plays for a shitty team, so we'll see. He's got some competition, but there is a path for him to become the immediate running back 2 in that offense. He's not going to challenge Kamara at this stage, but Kendre Miller has not been able to stay healthy. Hell, sometimes he can't even get on the field. I wasn't sure if he screwed the previous coach's wife or whatnot, because that dude would just hate about him.
That dude got WWE style promos on Kendrick Miller every fucking time he had the opportunity.
Yeah, so I don't know what that's about. He's gone, but maybe this new coaching staff will like Kendre Miller. I don't think so. I think Devin Neal is going to come in here and he's going to body bag Kendre Miller. Another guy who loved Kendre Miller, but he just hasn't been able to put it together. I think if Devin Neal gets on the field and gets a chance to show out, he's not going to relinquish that opportunity. I expect him to get some play this preseason. He's going to be a guy that I'm eyeing very closely in the preseason, because with his draft capital, I mean, let's not forget, we fall in love with these guys in the late rounds, our darlings. They got to make the football team. Like, these are not guys that are guaranteed a roster spot because they're a 7th round pick. Like, he's going to have to go out there and compete. So I expect him to get some run. But, man, I'm here for it, because I think that's the type of running back. I think that's just his mentality. He's not going to shy away from the competition. He's going to get out there and he's going to show out. And I'm just so excited for him, man, because there is that opportunity for him. So Devin Neal is my guy. He would have been running back 1 last year in the class, and then to go this far in this class, like, it's incredible, dude. It's truly mind-boggling. But I'm going to stick true to my process, and I said I'm not going to hold it against them as much as I typically would, just due to the depth. We knew they were going to get pushed down, so yeah.
I absolutely love this call. Devin Neal to the New Orleans Saints. I think this is the perfect pick by you. This is a dude I was all in on as well. He was my running back 7, I believe, coming into this draft. One thing you mentioned kind of in your theory here that I wanted to bring up when we got into the draft conversation at the beginning. A lot of the running backs fell. We had 1 3rd-rounder, right? We didn't see anybody else go in the 3rd. We had 3 go in the 2nd round. We had 2 go in the 1st, 3 go in the 2nd, and then 1 in the 3rd, and I think 3 in the 4th, right?
Yeah.
And I thought like we would see more in that 3rd, 4th round, right? Than I thought we were going. Than we actually did. So I was kind of surprised a lot of those guys, like the Devin Neals, the Damian Martinez's, the Jordan James, like he went in the 5th round, but like I thought he was a little bit better than a 5th round pick. Brashard Smith is another one who kind of fell further than I think we all imagined. But
yeah,
you know, you mentioned Alvin Kamara. Is he better than Alvin Kamara? Probably not. Kamara is what, 29, 30 years old, right? So there's probably not a lot of tread left on that tire for a dude who was doing everything in that offense for the past few years, whether it be pass catching, running the football. He's just like he has been that entire Saints office for a little while now. So there's got to be a little bit of tiredness to that body, but I'm not betting against him. I would never do that. Kendre Miller, you mentioned it. The WWE style promos from the former head coach. He was basically like I don't know if you remember that old Vine. It was like the way he wears his hat, whack. His haircut, whack. the way he wears his outfit, whack. Like that's exactly what I pictured every time you got the chance to talk about Kendre Miller. A lot of that falls on Kendre though, because like he's never been really healthy, right? No. Even in college, coming out of college, he had a little bit of injury history, and then in the NFL, that's showed its head. The Saints are not a great football team. You mentioned it. They did address the offensive line in the first round with Calvin Banks out of Texas. They addressed the offensive line last year from the dude from Oregon State, if I'm not mistaken. So they went back-to-back first-round picks on the offensive line. Does that mean that it's going to be successful? No, but they're taking the opportunities that they're given and trying to address something major in the NFL. You need those tackles to be studs, right? I see what they're doing though. But Devin Neal, you mentioned just smooth. This is the most smooth electric running back. You can't put those two words together that I've seen in this class. He's so smooth when he has the ball, he looks electric. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. He's good between the tackles. He's good on outside zone runs. He's good with pass catching. He can make you miss in the open field. He does have NFL size. He can pass block decently. I don't think that's his strength by any stretch of the imagination.
He's a willing blocker, though.
Yeah, willing block. And that's the best thing for me. Tank Bigsby said it a couple years ago during the combine, and I'm sure other people have said it, but I was always a big Tank Bigsby stan. He said, the biggest thing about pass blocking is just wanting to, right? And you see that in Devin Neal. And I had one draft recently where he was falling into the fourth round. Like I'm talking, I think he didn't go to like 4, 5, 4, 6. I was offering third round picks to every single fucking person in that late third, fourth round. And people were just not even paying attention. I'm like, yo, dude, I want this pick. Like, come on. I'm giving you a third here. You're moving up around. Like, come on. Because I wanted Devin Neal and nobody, I would message him like, yeah, dude, what's going on? He's like, oh, I didn't say it. And then you didn't even take Devin Neal anyway. So what the fuck?
Right.
So I was so heated. It was a rough day for me just watching Devin Neal plummet and plummet and plummet. But again,
I've got him in 2 drafts. One, I took him at 310. I said he is not falling past this. Another one, I got him at 4-4. I want to say I traded up for that pick. Like same thing. Him and Kyle Williams were both falling. Now I know Sleeper's ADP is kind of all jacked up.
It's all wanked.
Kyle Williams
whacked out.
Is pushed way down there. So hey, before they fix it, don't forget about Kyle Williams when you're there in the late third. When you're looking at it, you could get some free Kyle Williams.
I just did that at the 211. I took Kyle Williams. Yeah. Like I kept forgetting about him. I'm like, who the fuck am I taking here? Like I was like, Arroyo, I really like that pick. I could take him here. And I'm just scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, oh fuck, there's Kyle Williams. I can finally get him. Right. Oh, because it just kept happening. I just kept missing him. He's too far down. But again, love this call out for Devin Neal for you. Let's go into this last question here. I talked a little bit too much. I took up a lot of your time on this one. So I will let you start this one off. Another dynasty aspect, and you could go through this with the NFL lens as well. Which quarterback do you think has the most to prove after the 2025 draft? Because we saw, almost every quarterback got an upgrade one way or another, right? It was just fucking fun for fantasy football purposes at the quarterback position. Yeah. Which quarterback do you think has the most to prove from dynasty, NFL, whatever way you want to take it? You could go both. That's fine. Just however you would like to.
Okay. I have my answer. Now, the low-hanging fruit, the easy answer would be Shedeur Sanders. That's who I wanted to talk about, but that's too easy. So I thought about it, and I thought, okay, let's go with the third quarterback taken in this NFL draft. That would be the surprise guy taken in the second round by the New Orleans Saints. Talking about the Saints a lot here tonight. Tyler Shuck.
Oh,
now,
okay.
There's some pros here. Now, there's some things to like about Tyler Shuck. I've talked about it in my Discord. I've talked about it on Twitter. for as much hate as he gets, there are some good things. So I'm going to start off being positive here. He's got legit arm talent. Now, the play that always gets shown is like underhanded interception. But he has legit arm talent. The way he could throw with those arm angles, he could throw into tight spaces. He's got good velocity, good zip on the ball. There's a lot of things to like about him from that aspect. He's mature. He's seen as a leader in the locker room. I know coaches really like him. Daniel Jeremiah in his Move the Sticks podcast was talking a lot about Tyler Shuck and really hyping him up and saying, hey, here's a guy that could rise. Don't be surprised if you see Tyler Shuck drafted higher than you're expecting because coaches love this guy. He's mature. He's seen as a coach on the field, blah, blah, blah. All those superlatives that you always hear. Now, unfortunately for me, I think the cons outweigh the pros. He was a 7-year starter. Unfortunately, he's a 7-year starter, right? So you would think he'd have all this experience like Bo Nix. Unfortunately, he had all those terrifying injuries. And when you add up all the years in college, it adds up to one cumulative year of starting experience. So that was the troubling thing about him as a prospect was, yeah, he's got experience, but not necessarily on the field. Sure, he can read a defense. Is it that impressive because he's going against these younger guys? He's seen it for so many years. So it was a confusing pick for me that they overdrafted based on need. The only thing I could say that the Saints did good in this situation is they didn't take him in the first round. Many people thought they were going to overdraft a quarterback at 9, and that just would have been a mistake. But will he ever be given a true legit shot, or is he a tank commander for next year's draft class? That's always my question. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, they're going for Arch. I myself had said it months ago. People are starting to catch on now, too. Arch is not coming out in 2026. Mm-hmm. There's no way. His grandfather has said numerous times he wants at least 30 collegiate starts. That's just the Manning way. They know how to do it. He's not coming out. But there is some guys that they have potential. There's a lot of projection with that class. I think it could be great. But what are you doing? What are you doing with the Derek Carr situation? Is he trying to work his way out? They've been kicking the can down the road, the proverbial can down the road for years with the salary cap. At some point, they're going to have to blow it up. Did you pick a quarterback in the second round to be a tank commander? If you did, man, I think that could get messy pretty quick. So I'm out on him. I've seen him go mid-second round in Dynasty rookie drafts just because, hey, bro, you're playing super flex. You got to take the quarterback with second-round draft cap. The fuck I do. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna take Tyler Shuck in the second round of my rookie drafts. I'm sorry. I like Jalen Milroe a lot more than him. I would rather take a shot on Jalen Milroe than Tyler Shuck. He's younger. He's more athletic. That's the guy I would be targeting. Now, what the hell do I know? Right? What do you think about that, Mike?
So we're going to talk about Shuck a little bit later on as well. So I don't want to beat a dead horse a little too much. But I like what you said is you drafted him early in the second round. Is he going to be, the face of your franchise going forward, or is he just a placeholder for this year? It's a little weird of an option to do early in the second. I don't want to go too far in depth with this because we're going to talk about him a little later. But it kind of makes sense from a certain aspect. Just I liked what you said about him being an older prospect and he's going up against younger players who don't know exactly what they're doing on a football field just yet, like freshmen, sophomore, stuff like that. My counterpoint to that is, yes, he's older, but he hasn't done it either. Right? He's not seeing live rounds in an NFL game or in a college football game. He's just pretty much on an even playing field as he's freshman in his first year as a full-time starter, right? So he doesn't have all the live experience that you would think 26. I think he is a 26-year-old still in college would have. So that would be my only argument against that. I actually went a different route than you when it comes to the QB that has the most to prove. And this is going to be the second year I've put this dude on the clock, in my opinion. Trevor Lawrence, right? We talked about him from a generational quarterback standpoint for coming out, 4 or 5 years ago now? We're giving him on his 5th year, if I'm not mistaken. They've given you Brian Thomas Jr. Amazing, right? They now just moved up to get you, R1 wide receiver 1 of this class, right? One of the most electric players in all of college football, and Travis Hunter in the draft in the 2nd round. They got you Bashal Tutin. Now you have ETN, Tank Bigsby, Bashal Tutin as a backfield. Trevor Lawrence to me is on the fucking clock. Like, if he doesn't do it this year, if he's not a top 10 guy, like last year he started to show some flashes, he got hurt, so I kind of reset the clock again for him another year because like injuries happen. You know, you can't really fault him for that. But if he doesn't show top 10 to me this year, I'm out. I'm done. I'm moving on from him. I'm tearing down or I'm tearing up. He has to show it to me this year with Liam Cohen. We've seen Liam Cohen be, you know, a great offensive coordinator in the Buccaneers. I was blanking on the name. You saw him in Kentucky with Will Levis a few years ago. It looked pretty good as well. He's on the clock for me, man. If he doesn't show it this year, I'm done on Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, the table's set for him, right? Now he just needs to sit down and go eat. Like I'm right there with you, man, because I've been pretty critical of Trevor Lawrence as well. And I mean, even last year when BTJ was cooking, it wasn't Trevor Lawrence throwing him the ball.
Right. It was Mac Jones of all fucking people.
Mac Daddy Jones, baby, out there just slinging it to BTJ. Like, and not that he can't. Like, there was a lot of injuries on that team as a whole. BTJ was getting like a 33% target share, something ridiculous. You know, there's no excuse. I think he still has all the talent in the world. I do sometimes question his overall accuracy. I think Trevor Lawrence is a guy that likes to throw to a spot. I think you can go back to his time at Clemson when he had T. Higgins, you know, these big trees as wide receivers where he just throw it up to him. And so, I mean, you do got Brian Thomas Jr. on the outside who can win in those situations. He does great on those deep crossers. Now you add a guy like Travis Hunter, who's one of the best contested catch wide receivers I've ever gotten the chance to see in my life. Like, at that stature is what I'm saying. To be able to go up and high point the football is incredible. It's what makes him a good cornerback as well. Yep. Yes, that's a great pull. To be able at that frame to go up and with dudes, go up 3-4 guys, it doesn't matter. He's going to go up there and attack the football. That's going to lend itself well, I think, to what Trevor Lawrence does as a quarterback, where he's just going to put it up to him. He's going to trust him. Now, the thing is, if you don't believe in him, though, move now. I'm telling you, Mike, if you have shares from him, I think now is the time to move him while his hype is still there. His value has remained remarkably insulated. I don't think a lot of guys get this many chances. And if you look at him, his whole career, it's been on a downward slope since his freshman season at Clemson. Like, he's just progressed, slowly kind of been on a decline, and it doesn't get talked about enough. I don't know if it's because Jacksonville's just not a big market. The national media doesn't really give two shits about Jacksonville, to be honest. They're just not really relevant. So I have wondered that silently to myself. Why does he not get more criticism? And I think internally those questions have to be happening. Like, okay, if we got everything set for you, if you can't do it now, I mean, but didn't they just sign him though? Actually, no,
yeah, they just gave him money. Yeah. But like from a dynasty aspect, I'm talking like I'm out, like I'm done. If you show it to me, we just broke it down how, you know, they moved up, 3 picks, but they gave up a lot for Travis Hunter. So they have a plan for him. You don't do that for a corner. You do that for a stud wide receiver, right? You got to get it right this year, T-Law. You have to be that guy. You have to be what everybody kind of hoped you would be coming out of Clemson a few years ago. There's no excuses now. There's no, you had Urban Meyer his rookie season. You know, there's no Doug Peterson. Yeah, there's no Doug Peterson holding you back. You have to do it now. Your time is up to me if you don't show it.
Yeah.
But let's get into our this or that. We are going to be putting rookies versus rookies. We're going to be putting rookies versus vets. We're going to have a conversation on who we like better from a dynasty standpoint. This is going to be really interesting because, again, we got rookie drafts going on right now. We got startups coming up soon. We want to make sure you guys are ready, willing, and able to be to win your leagues or rebuild your leagues, depending on which direction you're going here. I will let you ask the first question. I'm a gracious host. I will let you give me your first question.
Okay. My first one, a guy that we talked about a little bit. Let's go Tyler Shuck or Shador Sanders. This or that, sir. Who would you rather have?
This is weird
Right.
because I had Shador as my quarterback 2 going into the draft, right? I don't think anybody saw a 5th round pick coming in his future, right? The talent is not a 5th round pick. Maybe the ego is. I'm not part of that,
Right.
the draft process of interviewing him or anything like that. The talent is not a 5th round pick, in my opinion, right? Tyler Shuck, probably a 2nd, 3rd round pick, and he went in the 2nd round, so that's fine. My thing for both of these guys is they both have an uphill climb, right? Shador was a 5th round pick. Cleveland has no investment in him whatsoever, right? They drafted a guy ahead of him in the 3rd round who we don't think is as good, but he still has to beat that guy. They put more capital into the other dude, right? They have Joe Flacco. They have Kenny Pickett. It's a logjam. Then you talk about Tyler Shuck. He's in a bad offense. He's got a decent coach. I think both these guys have decent coaches, so I can't argue against one or the other. We got to see what Kellen Moore is as a play caller, as a leader of a football team. So that remains to be seen. But I'm going to go with Shuck here just because the opportunity for him to be a starter this year is obviously greater. And to be honest, I heard you say you saw him go in the mid-2nd. I've seen him go in the late 2nd, the mid-3rd, falling to the late 3rd. And I've seen Shador go in the same range as him almost in every draft. And I've seen them flip-flop. Like I've seen Shador go first. I've seen Shuck go first. I've seen one or the other go 2nd. Doesn't matter. I'm not putting a 2nd or 3rd round capital into a guy who was drafted in the 5th round because that's replaceable asset, in my opinion. I can't do it. I couldn't do that. If I'm going to take a guy in the 4th round that was a 5th round quarterback pick, fine. But I might even take Will Howard at that fucking point compared to Shador. I might as well take the gamble on the guy in the 4th round who went in the 5th round on a Will Howard than Shador. I also think the 2nd round capital plays into Shuck possibly still being the starter the following year, right? Mm-hmm. That is possibly what I think the Saints could do. Now, another argument for Shuck is if you draft him in the 3rd round, say, for instance, he starts, whether he comes in the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, he starts balling a little bit. He starts throwing maybe a 250-yard game, 2 touchdowns, maybe an interception here. Maybe he has a rushing touchdown. Maybe he starts putting up 14, 15 points a game. Maybe somebody comes knocking at your door who's a playoff contender and you're not and says, hey, I need a guy that I can fill in for a quarterback that got hurt that I need to make a playoff push with. I'll give you my 26th second. Go ahead. You can have them. I'll give you a 2nd and a 3rd. I'll give you 2 seconds. That absolutely could happen because Shuck's going to be playing. I don't know if Shador is going to be playing from a 5th round pick. Like, there's no investment. You invested in Gabriel Moore. You paid Joe Flacco. I'm going to take the guy who has the opportunity to play right away and flip him if I can, because I don't know if Shador has that in his cards this year. If I'm going to hold, maybe I'll go Shador. If I'm a complete rebuilder and I have 2 years or a year to wait, fine. But I'm going to take Shuck and see if I can flip him in the middle of the season or towards the end of the season.
That's a great point. Just from a market perspective, due to the draft cap, he is going to have that insulation and from a real life perspective and from a dynasty perspective. So honestly, that's a great point. I want to say you changed my mind a little bit. I would say Shador, if I'm just looking at it from a pure talent perspective, from what I viewed them as prospects, but that might be take luck at this point, and I need to wake up and smell the roses and the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is that I don't want to speak on the rumors. I don't know what happened, but something happened for Shador to slide that far, right? And maybe he's a little entitled. I don't know, but now he has to go out there and he has to actually compete for that roster spot with another guy that was taken ahead of him. So, is that a guy that you really want to invest any type of capital in? Mm-hmm. Maybe if he goes undrafted in my leagues and I take him, but he won't because he's a quarterback and we play in super flex and he's got the Sanders last name. So I think honestly the answer is to stay away from both of them. But no, I I loved your point about the draft capital. If I'm rebuilding, I could flip them to a potential contender. That's a great point because shit happens when you get to the playoffs. Like when you're there and you got to compete and it's just you're in and you just need lady luck to get on your side. You just need some points. Hell yeah, I'll throw you that future second. I don't care. I'm trying to win a mother effing championship right now, right? Like, so that's a good play on the market, Mike, and it's a great point. I love it. Absolutely.
I'm glad I could, change the minds. That's what I try to do,
yeah.
right?
I'm open-minded.
Yeah, but also the thing is, you got to remember now, Cleveland has 2 first-round picks next year with theirs, and now they have Jacksonville's. Who's to say if they're still bad and they don't if they have end up with a top 5 pick, they end up packaging those and they move up to the 101 to get whoever the top quarterback option is if they think he's worth it. If Lenore Sellers balls out,
I knew you were going to say it. Yep.
If Lenore Sellers balls out this year, that could be a dude to watch. I don't think that happens. I think they could get a guy like Cabe Klubnik at their 1-5 if they're in the top 5, top 10 pick. I think Cabe Klubnik could be that guy because they built around him at Clemson. Drew Allar started to get some buzz. Towards the end of this season into the draft cycle, he ended up going back. He could be a top 10, top 15 pick as well. So the Browns are going to have options with 2 first-round picks, right?
Yeah.
Who's to say they don't take another shot on another fucking quarterback next year? And I think that realm is more possible than New Orleans, who just took a 2nd-round pick in Tyler Shuck. But they could end up taking another 2nd-round pick next year, and then it's just another 2nd-round quarterback next year, and then it's just we'll see what the fuck we have. And then in 2027, you brought up Arch Manning. Maybe that's when they do it. But let's talk about 2 quarterbacks here. We'll go in another quarterback one for my question to you. And this is a guy who might end up, hopefully, hope for his sake, doesn't get injured towards playoff time in our fantasy leagues. That is going to be Jackson Dart versus Tua Tagovailoa. I'll give you this one first because I know you're not a Dart guy.
Sure you will.
But
okay.
Go ahead. What do you got?
All right. Well, I see what you're doing here, Mike. I see what you're doing here. You're trying to set me up. I've gotten a little bit of a reputation as being a Jackson Dart denier. I think that's unfair. I think I was a little critical of him. But that's because I do believe that the most important trait for an NFL quarterback is processing pre-snap, but more importantly at this level, post-snap. The defense is at this level just so much more intelligent. They're going to scheme specifically towards these rookie quarterbacks. And when you come from a system where it's primarily RPOs, where you got one read and you got to get that goddamn ball out quick, because if you don't, it's going to be a penalty. Schemed looks, I'm always going to be critical of those guys. That's just what I look for in quarterbacks. And Tua does have his limitations as an athlete, but when he's healthy, when he's not concussed, he's shown the ability to process information quickly and get the ball out of his hands, not in a schemed way, not in an RPO sense, being able to diagnose the field and get the ball out of his hands quickly. It's almost like what Will Stein does in Oregon to a different extent, I guess, but the same type of concepts that they run and implement and get the ball out quick. You need that type of quarterback. I'm not confident in Dart's ability to process an NFL defense post snap. I've talked about that without the progression and the read being schemed for him. Tua, he's shown to be a tremendous fit in what Mike McDaniel is trying to do and what he wants to run offensively. I think the only thing that slowed him down has been those concussions. I mean, if you have Tua on your rosters for Dynasty, when he's there, he puts up points. It's just, right now I do have questions about their offensive line and their ability to keep Tua. So from a market play, I don't think it would be a bad idea if you wanted to pivot from Tua to Jackson Dart, who, look, for as much shit as I've talked about him, he did put some exciting things on tape. I've talked about him. USC originally recruited Jackson Dart, and I'm a USC fan here, so I saw him. I was excited for him. I know what he's capable of. It wasn't his fault that Caleb Williams came to town, but
yeah,
I have been critical of him, like I said. But the good thing about his landing spot is Jackson Dart now gets to sit and learn. Right? He's not the biggest thing that I was always concerned about. I thought he was going to go to a team in the first round and be expected to start. I fully anticipated the Pittsburgh Steelers taking him with their pick. in the first round, and I thought he was going to be expected to be the guy day one, and I would have hated that for him. Now he gets to sit behind a Russell Wilson or a Jameis Winston, whoever wins that quarterback battle. The biggest question now for me, Mike, is going to be like, is that regime that drafted him still going to be there after this season? Or does it matter? Because a lot of times we see a coach draft a quarterback and then the coach is canned, and then the next guy that they bring in has to buy into that quarterback. So I'm not really sure if it matters. Whoever the next coach would be, say, if Brian Daboll is let go, we'd have to be all in and have a plan for how he's going to maximize Jackson Dart. The good thing is I don't think Brian Daboll is a bad coach. I do think he's still riding on the coattails of Josh Allen's ascension, but he's not a bad coach, and he clearly understands quarterbacks. He hasn't really had his guy there. He inherited Daniel Jones, and he did get the best out of Daniel Jones. So, I mean, let's give him his guy. The good thing about being a first-round quarterback now is you got that fifth-year option, right? You're going to be cost-controlled on the team, which they're going to love. Really maximizes your role, like – that window that you get, we've seen it time and time again in the NFL. That window that you get with a rookie quarterback on that rookie contract, you can allocate money to all the other assets and all the other positions on the field. So, I mean, look, what situation is better than being able to throw to Malik Neighbors?
Yeah,
for rookie quarterback. Like, I love that. So, I think I found myself wanting to say Tua. And along this journey, Mike, I think I talked myself into Jackson Dart. So what I'm learning is I'm not decisive tonight, and I can't make a decision. But
I'm in your head. That's why.
That's what it is. No, I literally was sitting here. I was prepared to say Tua all the way, and then I was like, you know what? That offensive line, I forgot that they didn't really fucking address the offensive line. So
neither team really did, though.
Yeah, fair point. I think I wouldn't mind re-rolling if I have Tua and if I could get something on top of that, or if I'm in the draft and I'm trading picks, if I could get something a little kickback and re-roll the dice on Dart. I think that's a good play. If I'm competing though, pray for the best, I guess. And I mean, hope that Tua stays later on. Yeah, that's the move. That's the move.
So contrary to your belief, I did not pick this because of you. I did not pick Jackson Dart because of you. I went on Keep Trade Cut, and I was just kind of looking at like what quarterback was Jackson Dart valued similarly to, and that was Tua Tagovailoa. And I was like, oh, okay, this is actually a really interesting conversation, right? Because they kind of, Dart's kind of going in that 110 to like 202 range, roughly in most drafts that I've seen.
Pretty consistently.
Tua is about that price range if you're going to buy him because you're taking a real big risk.
Yeah.
My thing is Tua doesn't have the athletic ability that Jackson Dart has. I think that's pretty safe to say. But when Tua's on, we're talking about a guy who's throwing like almost 5,000 fucking yards. Like it's still a fantasy aspect without that rushing upside. My biggest thing for him, and you mentioned it at nauseum, was the injury history, right?
Yeah.
The offensive line's a mess. Teron Armstead, their tackle, retired this offseason. That's a huge blow. That's a Pro Bowl tackle right there. Just decides to retire. So my opinion, I'm going to be taking Dart here as well, just like you. You mentioned some of the pre-snap stuff, or when the ball is snapped, like how are you able to dissect the defense? The easiest thing for that is guys who can get open quickly, right? And Malik Neighbors is that dude. A guy who I really, really fucking like, and I don't think it's enough respect as another dude who can get open quickly. Wan'Dale Robinson, man.
Yeah.
If you want a dude that could do the dirty work, even for like a short king, like you mentioned earlier, Wan'Dale Robinson is that dude. So Jackson Dart, has a nice offense around him. It's just the offensive line needs some time to kind of start really getting like put together because they don't have that at all. You also mentioned he has time to sit, right? Here's my thing about that. You mentioned, again, pre-snap stuff when the ball snapped. Who's a better dissector than Russell Wilson at his prime, right? Not a whole lot of people. Well, Russell Wilson was a good reader of a defense, right? Who was a really good gunslinger who had just an absolute fuck it mentality? Jameis Winston.
Yes.
Two ends of the spectrum quarterbacks that Jackson Dart gets to learn from. And that's exciting to me.
I don't know if it's a good thing.
No, but it isn't. It isn't, right?
Yeah.
Like you have a game manager type dude with a mobility aspect in Russell Wilson, and then you have an absolute like just fuck it and chuck it type of dude, Jameis Winston. There's nobody better to learn from, in my opinion, than both those people. I'm all in on Dart, especially with Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson. They brought in Scatabo, who I'm not the biggest fan of. They had Tyrone Tracy, who's a really good pass catcher as well. So at the value point, and if I'm, if I have time to hold on, I'm going to take Dart as well.
Yeah, great points all around, man. And talking about Wan'Dale Robinson, that might be the quietest 140 target season I've ever seen in my life.
Sure, isn't it?
I mean, he might have had an 8 out of like 3 yards, but I mean, he was getting those targets for sure. So Scatabo too. Wasn't the biggest Scatabo guy, but like he's gonna complement Tyrone Tracy so well. Like I could just see the booms right in the blue, and I could just see him. I don't know if he's the most talented guy, but Cam Scatabo is going to give you his best. And I think New York's probably going to fall in love with him. Yeah. I think I heard Ray G talking about that. Like, can't you just hear the crowd chanting Scatabo or Bo? Like, you could just hear it. Like, and the Blues, and I totally agree with Ray there. Like, it just seems like such a good fit. So
for sure,
good for them. Good for them.
All right, let's go with your next question. Who do you got?
All right. So, ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go Fannin Jr., Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end, drafted by the Cleveland Browns. Or would you rather have Isaiah Likely, tight end for the Baltimore Ravens?
Cue up that video. Surprise, surprise. I'm going Harold Fannin Jr. here.
Oh,
yeah, surprisingly.
Staying true.
Yeah, okay. Staying true to my points. I still think, he's going to be that dude when given the opportunity. It might not be this year. This is going to be probably a long-term outlook. I think Njoku, it really depends on what he does this season, whether Cleveland retains him or not, or maybe he looks to move on himself. So it's going to be what it is when the time comes. My thing is with Isaiah Likely, I mentioned Njoku ahead of Fannin. Mark Andrews is still there, right?
Yeah.
Like we all want to talk about how Mark Andrews dropped the ball in the playoffs. Okay, I get it. Like that shit happened, right? Mark Andrews at the time was on a fucking tear for touchdowns and fantasy points and still being that dude in the Baltimore offense. He really started slow. There was like a car accident or something.
Yeah.
He was banged up from that. Took like 3-4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks to get going. And then if you look at it, he still finished as tight end fucking 6 in fantasy, which is crazy to think about from a dude who really didn't get started until like mid-season or, almost mid-season, pretty much like the tail end of the early part of the season. Mark Andrews is still that dude. He's still probably, in my opinion, he's still going to be Lamar Jackson's dude, Mark Andrews. He's still to me going to be the target one in that offense. Zay Flowers is getting real close to taking that, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but him and Mark Andrews to me are like right here. Like they're the 1A, 1B, kind of like, Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. Not to that same, I'm not comping that, but Lamar's got that in Zay and Mark Andrews, just a dependable tight end. Yeah, we saw in the playoffs for Mark Andrews. That ain't the fucking norm for Mark Andrews. This dude catches what's thrown to him. This dude finds the end zone. I still think Mark Andrews might be a sneaky buy this offseason because I think the stench is on him because of that playoff game. What do you got here?
Well, I love Fannin Jr. He was tight end 2 for both of us going into this draft, and nothing has really swayed me from that. I still believe in the talent.
Third round pick, not bad either.
No, it's really not. Now, I chose these two because I love the similarities in their play style coming from small schools and both stuck behind legitimate stars at their position. David Njoku, when he's on, when he's being fed the targets, is incredible. If I had to pick between the two of them, gun to my head, I'm going to still choose Isaiah Likely simply because of the offensive environment around him. Now, let me explain. Mark Andrews is still there, and he is still going to eat into his targets. However, I don't believe in the wide receivers there. I think they showed the propensity to go into more of that 12 personnel and have both of them. And Isaiah Likely, early on in the season, he was cooking. He was cooking, and I like that we know who his quarterback is going to be, right? I got so many questions about Cleveland. I don't know who's going to be there next year. I don't even really know who's going to be there midseason, potentially, right? Like, I have too many question marks. So from a dynasty perspective, I would choose what I've seen versus the projection. Now, I project Fannin to be good, but I've seen Likely do it, and I've seen Likely do it at a high level with Mark Andrews in there too. And I think just going forward, like, Lamar Jackson showed a great connection with him as well. And I think they're going to continue to find ways to get both of them involved. Talking about Mark Andrews as well. Zay Flowers is there, but I think those are the three biggest offensive weapons there.
For sure.
From a passing attack from a passing attack, they're the biggest weapons. King Henry is still going to eat even at 31 years old. So simply, like, the tiebreaker for me was just the offensive environment. I trust Baltimore more than I do Cleveland.
Yeah, I could see the argument there. I could see that because he's likely going to be the guy when Mark Andrews, rides off into the sunset, whether he's only 30 or 29, I believe. So he might actually even be 28 still, if I'm not mistaken. So he's still got some tread left on the tires. I know he was a little banged up in the beginning of the season. You mentioned Likely took a step forward in the beginning of the season. I do think a lot of that had to do with the slow start for Andrews. That's just my opinion too, because they needed another guy to take a step, and which is great for Likely, is to take that step, right? To show he's capable of being the guy when Andrews isn't around and when eventually he is moved on from. So I do like that call. I'm just going to bet that Fannin steps into that Njoku role, not from an athletic testing standpoint, because those two completely polar ends of the spectrum. But they are very good after the catch. They're good with the ball in their hands, and they're good with the ball in the air. That's kind of it from how they play. I do think, I don't know if you would agree with this. I think Fannin's a little bit more technically sound in route running than Njoku is. Njoku being more of an explosive route runner, if that makes sense. Would you agree with that?
I do. Yeah, for sure. That's always what made Njoku great.
He's just so electric. Yeah, freak athlete.
Dude, he's incredible.
The thing that won me over about Njoku, like, you could say the injuries and shit, like, that happens, but, like, the dude came to play after, like, burning half his face off.
His face.
Yeah, which is insane.
Around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That dude's a psychopath.
Yeah. Yeah, he looks.
You see what Harvey Dent did when he was like that. David Njoku was like, "I'm going to go play football."
Yeah, I'm going to go terrorize your city, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's David Njoku. So,
all right, so I'll go to my next one. We might as well stick on the tight end conversation here. We're going to go with Philadelphia Eagle tight end Dallas Goedert, or newly acquired second-round pick to the Seattle Seahawks Elijah Arroyo. Dustin, who do you got?
I can't have any old people on my dynasty roster. Get him out.
Party's over, Grandpa.
Party's over, Grandpa. No, honestly, give me Arroyo. I love the talent. Top 50 pick comes. I mean, you're not supposed to helmet scout, but University of Miami puts us some great tight ends. I want all of the Elijah Arroyo that I can get. I would not mind re-rolling at that position if I do have Dallas Goedert. He's just getting older. And he's competing for a lot of targets between A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and now you got Saquon Barkley eating up carries. Jalen Hurts is always going to get his. I just don't see it. And if I have the opportunity to move off Dallas Goedert, get that second-round pick, I'm drafting Elijah Arroyo.
Well, guess what?
I don't know what
news sounder. I'm taking Elijah Arroyo right here at the 3-1 in the draft. Yeah, I just went on the clock. I was like, oh, shit.
Did you?
Okay, yeah, 3-1. I'm going to take Elijah Arroyo here.
Man, I love when the universal lines things like that. How beautiful.
Funny
and you know
what
what's beautiful?
Chuck went at the 212. So there you go. I mean, at the end of the second round, it's not bad. But
good for you. Pushed value down the board for you. So good for you. It's beautiful.
Sorry to cut you off there, but
no, that's cool. I love that. It's beautiful. Like I said, and another thing that's beautiful is the Kubiak system. Now, fun fact for you. Denver has won 3 Super Bowls, as you know, and we have never won a Super Bowl without a Kubiak calling plays. So I know,
shit.
yeah. Always been Gary
You
Kubiak.
just really fucked me up on that one.
Yeah. Denver has been to 8 Super Bowls, but the only 3 that they've won were because Gary Kubiak was calling our plays. So I'm well versed in the Gary Kubiak, or it's not the Gary Kubiak, but the Kubiak system. And they love tight ends in that system. You want one of those athletic guys that you can move out, get quick passes to, and just make some magic happen. And by all accounts, they plan to utilize them as a weapon. Now, we do know there are some past injury concerns for him, but I'm not really worried about it. Part of my scouting process is I'm never really going to knock you too much for injuries because football's a violent game. Like nobody comes out of it unscathed. I have my battle scars just from playing, and I was not nearly at this level of an athlete or at this level of competition. So who am I to judge? It's a violent game. Nobody comes out unscathed. Can you do good football things when it's time to play? And Elijah Royal has that all over his film. I can't ignore the top 50 draft capital for tight end. He's already being hyped up in camp. I don't know if you've seen the hype videos with him and Milroe.
Mm-hmm.
And Milroe's using that virtual reality training, baby. So we got our quarterback development in the NFL. But yeah, what do you think, Mike? You're there with me, huh? You're taking Arroyo.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I got to put my Eagles bias aside. You want to talk about injury history? There's nobody who has more of an injury history in the NFL than Dallas Goedert, right? Never played a full season in his NFL career. He's been constantly hurt. Yeah, he's never played a full season. If he did, it was his rookie year, and that's because Zach Ertz was still around. But he's never been a healthy player in his NFL career. I love Elijah Arroyo. I love the landing spot. You mentioned Kubiak, which is great. But when TJ Hawkinson was healthy last year with Sam Darnold, he was averaging 6 targets a game, which is perfect for an Elijah Arroyo type player who can get vertical, who can win those deep ball routes, who can get open in the intermediate deep, where JSN and Cup are just absolutely decimating dudes in the intermediate and they're short with like just killing people on route running. I can't wait till the first play where Elijah Arroyo just absolutely smashes somebody down the seam and just goes for 50 yards to the house, kind of like what we saw at Miami. And that it would be fantasy gold if you're getting him at like the 211 to 303 is kind of where I've seen him go. For me, it's been I've gone more Arroyo. I have taken a share over Taylor. I have taken a share of Taylor over him in one draft just to kind of, diversify the profile a little bit because I do like Mason Taylor. He is kind of like a safety blanket type of dude. The higher upside, though, is Elijah Arroyo by far, in my opinion. So we're both in lockstep here when it comes to the tight end battle. I think Elijah Arroyo for both of us is that guy, and it's a great call by us. Who's your next one?
My next one for you, we're going to go back to the quarterbacks a little bit here.
Oh.
Let's go Cam Ward, the 101 this season, or Bryce Young, the 101 in 2023. Who would you rather have?
So I think this might be a hot take, and I don't know how people are going to like it, but I'm going Cam Ward.
I knew it. You son of a bitch. I knew it.
I'm sorry. I have to. I can't get past the size because Bryce Young is a smaller dude. We've already seen Bryce Young get benched. Yes, he got his job back. Yes, he looked better, but he's already been benched, right? That's not a good sign, in my opinion. Can he overcome that? It seems very likely. It seems like that we're on that trajectory. I also don't trust Carolina either. So we're betting against 2 franchises right now that are pretty much not great from the top down, right? But Cam Ward's got the size. Cam Ward's got the mentality to be a leader, right? I'm not saying Bryce doesn't. Don't take that as I don't think Bryce is a great leader.
Hit him in the comments.
Yeah, hit me in the comments. Everything you've heard about Cam Ward coming out of this draft is he's a dude that is going to let people know what they need to work on, and not be a dick about it. Knows when he needs to work on something. I don't know if you heard this story. I forget who was telling it, where they were in practice. It was a goal line drill where he threw a touchdown pass. Coach looked at the ref. He was like, call a holding penalty. Call a holding penalty. Cam Ward threw a fit for a couple seconds. Went back, lined up, threw another touchdown. The coach said, throw another flag on for holding. Cam gets pissed, fucking does it again. He said they scored 28 points just because Cam was like, you know what, fuck it, you're gonna keep throwing the fucking flag. I'm gonna keep throwing fucking touchdowns. That is the mentality I want in a quarterback. This is a dude coming from 0 stars to the number 1 overall pick. In my opinion, could turn around things. Shout out Chef. Could turn around things for the Tennessee Titans. Maybe not this year, but next year when they hopefully give him some fucking wide receivers. I'm going to bet on Cam Ward because I've told you a million times I'm not betting against him. So I'll go Cam Ward here, mostly because of the size and maybe it's a little bit of what's the word? It's happening right now. What is that word? Recency bias.
Recency bias.
Yeah. So maybe it is a little recency bias. I'm a little nervous what Carolina is doing as well for Bryce Young. They've already benched him. They've already, people have been wondering, hey, did they move on for Bryce Young? Like, I don't know. I'm a little nervous, but I still have some hope for him as well.
Okay. Well, all very good points. And I mean, how could you not root for a guy like Cam Ward, who's been through so much, right, in his life? You talked about the adversity. I mean, being a 0-star recruit, coming out of a college like Incarnate Word, running the wing T offense out of high school, to being the first overall pick is nothing short of incredible. And it's that adversity that he went through that had to shape him. So, in my opinion, I don't know about you, Mike, but life isn't always easy. And those things that you have to go through shape you, right? They mold you into the person that you're always meant to become. So I view the benching of Bryce Young as the adversity that he had to go through.
Oh, good fucking roundabout there. Holy hell.
He was the number 1 ranked high school recruit in his class, went to the University of Alabama, got to throw to some of the best athletes in the world. Life was really good for Bryce Young. And then he got to the NFL and it wasn't so good. And I think he had to hit that low point to realize this is what I want to do. He had to get his swagger back. I don't know what Dave Canales did, but Bryce Young came back and he did not look like NFL Bryce. He looked like Bama Bryce out there. Now, you talk about the size, and it is a legitimate concern, but I believe it was against your Eagles where he had like a long ass drive starting on his at their goal line. I'm not sure who it was. I'll have to find the clips, but he's running around making plays, pivoting, throwing, and they should have had a touchdown pass to Xavier Legette potentially to win the game, and he dropped it. Like that. That's how Bryce Young was slinging it. I don't know if you saw the final game of the season with him against that duel versus Michael Penix. Against Michael Penix and the Falcons. What a game that was. Bryce Young was in his bag. He was just dishing it out. Like the confidence for him to hit the Steph Curry too, where he throws it to Tommy Tremble, turns around. Like, how do you not love that?
Timeout. The thing that scared me the most is that he did that and Tommy Tremble double catched it. I was like, oh fuck. Like I saw that on film. I was like, what if he dropped that and Bryce hit to Steph Curry? Like,
yeah.
I would have cried for him.
Right. I like his offensive environment. I'm a Dave Canales believer. I know you mentioned you don't trust Carolina. I don't trust old Carolina. I do like what Dave Canales has done. He's tied to that offensive mind that had him cooking to end the season. Canales coached Mike Evans, and he just drafted Tet McMillan 8th overall after drafting a wide receiver in the first round last year. So they continue to put pieces around Bryce. He's another guy that's set up for success. They have a sneaky good offensive line. I'd be interested to see how PFF ranks them, but from what I saw, the sneaky good offensive line play, especially with his size, he having to move around in the pocket. I like how they're able to keep him upright and give him that time in order to see the field.
For sure. So, I only bring that up that he was benched and everything like that because I'm trying to make my Cam Ward pick look better, right? Because I do think Bryce has the ability to bounce back and be, for fantasy purposes, a quarterback too. I don't think he ever hits that, QB1. I don't think he hits that top 12. Could he be like a 18 or 17 to 19 finish kind of guy pretty regularly? I could see that because he does have some mobility. Now, Cam Ward, though, in my opinion, could be a guy that hits your 12 to 15 just because he's got that fucking and chuck it, that Baker Mayfield-esque type mentality, that Baker Mayfield type of ability, in my opinion.
Sometimes there's detriment, man.
Listen,
Cam Ward will throw some balls, man.
I fucking love it, though. I can't get enough of it. But I'm going to roll with Cam Ward here. I don't think, I know I kind of gave Bryce, a bad rep there, but I still think he can bounce back. He wasn't my quarterback one of that class either, by the way. Stroud was. And for fantasy purposes, Richardson was 2. But for the NFL purposes, Bryce was 2. So for me, it's Cam Ward. Don't really think there's a wrong answer. I do think you couldn't swap 1 for 1 for fantasy purposes right now because the hype around Cam Ward is there. But I will go into my next one. We haven't done a rookie versus rookie yet. Or have we? No, yeah, we did. Shador versus Shuck. All right, we'll go. Oh, yeah. I haven't done a rookie versus rookie question here. We're going to go RJ Harvey versus Caleb Johnson. And a little background here. We came up with these questions before social media really started blowing up about this conversation.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there. We didn't just pick this one off social media. But go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I love this question because it's a legitimate choice that you have to make if you're choosing at the back end of your dynasty rookie drafts. It's a decision I've had to make 3 times, and 2 out of the 3 times I've chosen RJ Harvey. So let me explain why he's the only choice right here. Not only did RJ Harvey get better draft cap, he got the better landing spot. Denver was one of the best offensive lines last season, but none of our rostered running backs did a good job of creating after the contact. So, okay, yards before contact, we're leading the league, but as soon as there's any contact, we're down. It was so frustrating to see, and the fall of Javonte Williams after that injury was just heart-wrenching to see. A guy that was a yards after contact king, to see what he became was just tough. Then he had Sean Payton running Jaleel McLaughlin at goal line. He was giving this man goal line carries. 5'7" McLaughlin was getting, anyways. Object estimate looked like our best one, but even still, he struggled too. So now you get RJ Harvey in, and when you look at the history of Sean Payton, he's always had good fantasy producing running backs. And a little fun fact, he's only ever drafted 4 running backs in the top 70 as a head coach. He drafted Reggie Bush 2nd overall. He drafted Mark Ingram 28th overall. He drafted Alvin Kamara 67th overall. And after trading back twice from pick 50, they finally settled and they said, look, we're going to take our guy RJ Harvey here at pick 60. The biggest knock on Harvey, as we know, is one, his size. They say, oh, he's 5'8", 200 pounds. Ooh. Even though that's around the same size as Jahmyr Gibbs. And they point to his age. But look how he's put together, that 5 foot, 208 pounds.
Bulky,
frame.
Man.
He's bulky. And when you watch him, he's like a speedy little fucking bowling ball, that compact frame. He's got great speed, great vision, and he's flashed that pass catching upside. He's versatile, right? We know that coming out of high school, he was recruited to play quarterback, and he actually spent 2 seasons as a backup quarterback before he transferred to play UCF. So knock out that age argument. He doesn't have the wear on his tires because he was sitting on the bench, and then he was like, you know what, I'm gonna make that choice to be a running back. When you look at the Senior Bowl, because you were there, right?
Mm-hmm.
He threw a nice touchdown pass there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a guy that everybody sees RJ Harvey and doing that, and they go, oh, that's the Joker. That's the Joker for Sean Payton. And I don't want to go on a tangent here, but I do want to touch on what the Joker means, because everybody in the fantasy community is trying to figure out, is it Evan Ingram? Is it RJ Harvey? Who's going to be the Joker? Well, I'm here to tell the people that the Joker is not a player. It's actually the scheme. All right. The Joker is the scheme and the culture that Sean Payton is developing. Now, let me explain. You got Evan Ingram, who can line up all over the field. He can play inline tight end. He can line up outside. You got Marvin Mims, who was taking snaps out of the backfield last year. You had Bo Nix catching a touchdown pass against Baltimore Ravens, right? Now you add in RJ Harvey. I mean, it even extends to the defense, okay? We just drafted Jahdae Barron in the 1st round, who's a guy who's noted to be able to play nickel. He could play outside corner. He could play safety. So you can line him up all over the field. They want these versatile players. So RJ Harvey is just another chess piece for Sean Payton, and that should make you very, very excited for fantasy.
So I want to talk about a few things that you mentioned here. All right, you ready? I want to talk about that quarterback pass that he threw in the Senior Bowl, right? I'm not going to take full credit for that. I'm going to take some credit because I don't know if you saw my interview with RJ Harvey down at the Senior Bowl. I asked him about that. Okay. Fast forward to the game, he throws a touchdown pass. I didn't go to the game. I decided to go home. I had an 18-hour drive, so I was like, let me get ahead of it. Let me leave early. I had the game on, listening to it on my ride home. Through that touchdown pass, they went to commercial. They come back to commercial. They talk about it. They said the coaches at the Senior Bowl found out that RJ Harvey was a quarterback previously, so they wanted to put that game plan into the Senior Bowl game. And I was like, those motherfuckers, something out. But like in my brain, that's what's happening, is that they heard my interview and they decided to let RJ Harvey heave it down the field. All right. Let's get into the actual film aspect, the aspect of them drafting RJ Harvey at 60th overall. One of the best possible landing spots you could have. You mentioned they had 4 guys last year. Javonte Williams still had 52% of the carries or 52% of the snaps. So in my opinion, they want to have a guy be kind of not the bell cow, but the snap leader, right? There's going to be a guy like an Estime and a Harvey. They're going to feed off each other. I could see it being like a 60-40 split where Harvey's 60% because he's a better pass catcher than Estime. I really like Estime, by the way. So I liked him last year. I think he's a great ground and pound type runner, short yardage, goal line. And I think that fits RJ Harvey to an absolute T, just because, he's a smaller back. He's a built frame. And you mentioned it. He's better at taking on contact than I think people even fucking give him credit for. 897 yards after contact last year was good for 15th in the class. That's nothing to sneeze at for a dude who's, I think I had at 208 or 205. Like, that's good for a dude who's 5'8", 205. Second in carries of 15 yards or more with 32 last year. An absolute dude who could take it to the house at any point. And you mentioned it. PFF gave the Broncos the second best offensive line in the NFL last year. That was to end the season. They were second best. RJ Harvey is coming from the 37th best college football offensive line to now the second best offensive line in football. Now let's talk about the Caleb Johnson. What's that?
I just know what's coming. I'm laughing.
But let's talk about Caleb Johnson real quick. I have been the anti-hype on Caleb Johnson, right? I didn't see it with his film. I thought he was a good player, right? But people made him out to be like this top 4, top 3. Some people even had him as a top 2 guy, right? Yeah. That's your process. I'm not shitting on anybody for that. That's their process. I just didn't see it, right? A guy who didn't create for himself. Everybody wants to shit on fucking Omarion Hampton for not being an elusive runner. Caleb Johnson might be 30 times worse than Omarion Hampton as a elusive back. A lot of what his big runs that he had, and he had a lot on film, were the 3 blind mice could have run through those lanes that the offensive line was creating. So I did some digging. PFF has the Iowa offensive line 5th overall in all of college football. That is fucking insane to me, to be 5th best at run protection in all of college football. Let's fast forward that to the NFL now, because he's now an NFL type player. Everybody thinks Pittsburgh offensive line is actually solid. Guess what? It's fucking not. It was 27th overall in all of the NFL last year, according to PFF. Oof. Now, could that progress? Absolutely. I think the more thorn in his side is going to be Jalen Warren, right?
Yeah.
The electric back.
Talk about it.
Good pass catching back. A guy who can win in between the tackles. We saw him be a thorn in the side for Najee Harris last year. It was a 50. What do I have? Jalen Warren saw 45% of the snaps last year to Najee's 50%, and then there was a sporadic of whatever else, the rest of the percentage in there. So I think Pittsburgh is going to be more of a committee, in my opinion, than Denver's going to be, right? I think we could see another 50-45 split in Caleb Johnson and Jalen Warren. And I could see a 60-40 split to an Estime and an RJ Harvey. But the thing is, RJ Harvey has the opportunity to game break, to be the Alvin Kamara type player, which I don't really see in Caleb Johnson's game unless everything is made for him. And I don't think Pittsburgh can do that, right? What do you think about everything, the whole totem pole of shit that I just piled on?
I have been notably much lower on Caleb Johnson as well. So I've been with you throughout this whole thing. Now, I don't think he's a bad prospect by any means. It's just when I have them so closely ranked pre-draft as prospects, I'm gonna go with draft cap and landing spot as my differentiating factor there. And if you can't get excited about RJ Harvey in the system, well, then you simply just haven't been paying attention to how Sean Payton uses the running backs. Now, the landing spot for Caleb Johnson is a good one, right? Like, keeps the same color scheme. We know how he looks and the fits. Like, I guess that matters. I don't know how much for
the
fantasy.
Coolness factor.
The aura, I guess. He's a volume-based runner, and he's going to get plenty of volume, probably. And I think that's good for him. Maybe if you play in those high yards per carry leagues, that's becoming more popular, that might even it out a little bit. But I think RJ Harvey is he's gonna get catches. Like, this scheme in Denver, they throw to the running back quite a bit because they typically don't have running backs pass protect, right? They always got a little outlet a dumped in order to beat a blitz. That's why Russell Wilson just did not work, and why Sean Payton was pull his hair out, because he's like, you don't have to hold on to the ball and throw it down the field. I have it predetermined in the read where you go. And Russell Wilson would just not do that. He'd spin into sacks and say Broncos country. Anyways, I'm going on a tangent. RJ Harvey is going to get fantasy relevant receptions.
I forgot a fact here too that
Go ahead.
You brought that up. You talked about how Javonte kind of lost some of that power after his injury. He didn't lose that pass catching. He was fifth for the running back position with targets at 70 targets last year. And we're talking about a guy who didn't get every single snap. So 70 targets. I don't think he played every year or every game either, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had a missed game.
Yeah, he was out here and there. Just small. Like, he was never the same. Got a lot of targets, some receptions too. It was just movement with the ball after that was his issue. But yeah, plenty of targets to go around, and it's not talked about enough how many targets he was getting with Russell Wilson and with Bo Nix. A little less with Bo Nix because Bo Nix has
70 last year with Bo. That's a lot.
Damn, was it that much? Shit.
Yeah, that's what I googled it. Yeah.
Wow, power of the internet.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder how many targets he had, and it was 70 last year for Javonte.
I would not have said 70 if you had asked me. Wow.
It's crazy. To think.
It was a lot. I knew, like, just watching, like, oh yeah, we target the backs a lot. Okay, good to know.
Give us your last one here, because I know we're running a little longer on time than we imagined, so we'll rapid fire this.
I saved this one. I love it. Rookie to rookie, staying on brand with running backs.
Fucker. No, this is not the one I thought you were going with. Okay.
I'm going to go with Omarion Hampton versus Breece Hall.
So I think Breece has become kind of a value when it comes to a dynasty aspect, right? Because I do think he's still a very talented running back. I think he's I don't understand what the Jets were doing last year when it comes to the rotation, because I think he's miles ahead better than Braylon Allen and not Ray Davis.
Isaiah Davis.
Yeah, Isaiah Davis. They brought in a new head football coach. There were some rumblings about him possibly being traded during the draft. Obviously that didn't happen. But if you check our group chat recently, I have Hampton and Breece in the same tier, but I have Hampton above. So the same tier, slightly above. Right.
There you go.
I'm going to go with a guy I had as my RB2 in this class in a historic, quote unquote, historic running back class for the 2025 draft class. A guy who got first round capital to a team that really does love to run the football with Harbaugh, a team with, an improving every year has improved offensive line. You got Slater on one tackle. You've got Joe Alt on the other tackle. They brought in Mekhi Becton as a guard from the Philadelphia Eagles this past year. So, listen, Omarion Hampton deserves to be in your top 5 or 6 running backs in Dynasty rankings, and that's exactly where I have him. But in the same tier as Brees, I'm just going to go with the new hotness, as Will Smith said in Men in Black.
Oh yeah, the new hotness.
Pull there.
That's a pull. Might be aging ourselves a little bit now.
Yeah.
But
hotness, old and busted. New hotness.
Old and busted. Yeah. I want to say Brees is either old or busted.
No, he's not. He's not.
A little bit. He's still young. I think you hit so many good points. I don't really have much to add, and I'll keep this moving because I know we're pressed for time here. But my choice is Hampton. He's the hand and glove fit, the Jim Harbaugh offense. We know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, run the ball. I'm not always really sure what they're going to do in New York. Having a run first quarterback in Justin Fields is always a little tricky for these running backs too. Where is Justin Fields going to take away from the potential carries? How much is he going to dump off? Because that was always one of the biggest pulls to having a Brees Hall, is that you were going to get potentially 90 targets and 70 catches on the year. I'm not sure that you get that, at least for this season with Justin Fields. So this year and even going forward, I just love Omarion Hampton. He's young, big, fast, first round draft capital. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. So pretty comfortably, I'd go Omarion Hampton over Brees. I don't officially have my tiers and rankings like that on me, but if I had to guess, I know they'd be close and right there. All of these questions that I picked, I tried to pick guys that were kind of right there. Before we go, Mike, can I just squeeze in this one?
I was going to give you one more. Go ahead.
Okay, let's go. Xavier Restrepo versus Brashad Smith. Who you got? Who do you got and why? Cross positional this time. Both rookies.
You sick bastard. I'm going to go with the guy who got draft capital, the guy who went to the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, we just touted about how we like Jalen Royals going there, how they want to bring a high-powered offense back to what they used to be. And Brashard Smith brings a high-powered, electricness that they were kind of missing from the running back position last year when they had Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt pulling tires behind them. Like, they are slow as all fucking hell. I really like Brashard Smith. I could see him being Andy Reid's Brian Westbrook of this year, right? Of this era. Like his.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Brashard Smith. And, you know, you're getting him in like the 4th round, I think, in most leagues, or the late 3rd.
Got him. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but in a 16-team Superflex league, I got him at the 414.
Oh, yeah, you can't get much better than that.
That's equivalent to a 5th round pick in normal 12-man leagues.
So you're getting him in like the 4th round in most leagues. I'm going to take a gamble on the guy who got the capital, who I believe could be, the Tyrone Tracy of this class. I did like him a bit more than I liked Tracy last year. That's just going off what I remember on film from Tracy the year before. But I could see, Brashard having the Brian Westbrook type player in the Andy Reid offense. What do you got?
Man, Brian Westbrook, that's a good pull. Shout out to Chev. He had always, like, pre-draft, he said he could see Brashad Smith being like a Jerick McKinnon type. And then lo and behold,
well, that's another one.
Yeah, he goes to the team that employed Jerick McKinnon to the best of his abilities at this level. But Brian Westbrook, that's a good one, because one thing we know about Andy Reid is motherfucker's going to call some good screens, right? Especially to his backs.
People forget.
Yeah,
people forget Brian Westbrook was one of the OG PPR backs in fantasy football.
Yeah, that's a good pull. I like that one too. For where you're getting him in drafts, he's such a value for the potential rise in value that he's going to have after this. This is coming from a team that just recently we saw how they employed a 7th round back. And I think this is their strategy. They're going to keep taking these shots at running backs and at the 7th round. And lo and behold, it's right when Isaiah Pacheco is probably on his way out, and you could potentially get Brashard Smith entering right there. And I think from an explosiveness level, I think from a pure pass catching ability, clearly Brashad Smith is lights lights above Pacheco from that. Pacheco has a lot of wasted. I hate the way he runs. It's a lot of wasted movement. You know, the NFL analyst guys, they'll love it. They're like, oh, look at him running so hard. Why? Dude, you're wasting motion. Just cut and get up the field.
You're chugging along for fucking what?
You're chugging along. You are a complimentary piece on a great offense. You're nothing special, unfortunately. And I think it will be. Fuck? Yeah.
I'm disappointed in you. You're nothing special. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so Brashard Smith, I mean, I'll keep hitting it. From where you're getting him in rookie drafts, I could see him being potentially one of the biggest risers at his position this time next year. I know I already said that about Devin Neal, so maybe I'm double counting here, but I mean, those are two guys taken in the 6th and 7th round, late in NFL drafts that have the potential to definitely outperform that draft cap. So all in on Brashard Smith. I got so much of him and Jarquez Hunter in these drafts.
Yeah, that's the dude ridiculous. I've been grabbing a lot of. Pause. Jarquez Hunter. I did that. Yeah, that was awful.
A little too natural.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck. I haven't been able to get any Brashard Smith, and it's not from lack of trying. It's just because like it just happens where I
doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that to you where I made you end up picking Dart and you made me pick against Xavier Restrepo. So I respect that. We went a little longer than I imagined, so I apologize to you for keeping you so long. Tell the folks where they can find you and what you're working on and everything that's going on in Dustin's life.
All right, man. Well, first of all, never apologize for going too long. This is pretty fun stuff. I mean, we're blessed to be able to just talk about this stuff.
Sure.
Like for real. So anytime I get to talk ball, I'm happy. Kind of had a shitty day, so this was a nice reprieve from that. So thank you, my friend. You can find me. I got my Twitter handle put up right here on the screen. You can find me on the Twitters at Empire Elite FF. I got a nice little free Discord going by the same name. It's a pretty popping community. Go ahead and get in there. We do a bunch of stuff that a lot of creators are charging you to do. You know, we do 32 team 3-round NFL mock drafts together where we talk real football. We got a good film room already getting started. Me and my boy Josh are getting that really in the works where we have our own cut-ups that we've done, and we're going to be breaking down some of those going into the future. We really got our start doing NFL mock drafts and Dynasty rookie drafts and really built that community. Our foundation is just people talking ball. Like I said, it's a free Discord. You could go onto my Twitter. I should have the link posted there. Sometimes they expire. So if you do want to join it, it's not working, just send me a DM and I'll have you in. We'd love to have you. We do nothing but talk ball 24/7. Got a bunch of other awesome content creators that I fully support. Go in there and you won't regret it. It's a pretty special place. It's near and dear to my heart. Empire of the Elite.
Yeah, for sure. I'm in there as well. A lot of great guys, a lot of great conversation going on as well. Even in the non-football chats where it's a lot of anime conversation. I'm not the biggest anime guy, but I respect it. So I really respect what you're doing and what you're putting forth. You're one of the best guys that I've met during this, this thing that we all do, talking ball. So I appreciate you jumping on with me, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Of course. Likewise, Mike. Thank you for having me on, sir.
All right, you guys have a good night. This is it for the Dynasty Dogs, and we will see you in a couple days. Rich and I will be back. We're going to do a live rookie mock draft, so be on the lookout for that. That'll be Friday night. We're actually going into Wednesday right now, if I'm not mistaken. So in 2 days, be on the lookout for it's Wednesday for me now.
It's Wednesday for you. It's still 10 my time, but
I will see you guys next time. Have a good night.